My husband and I have been moving recently, which that alone is a whole nother story. I don't know if anybody, do you like moving? I mean, I don't know. I like the final product when you're finally moved and settled and everything has its place. But the process of getting there is daunting, right? But as we've been moving and as we started packing all of our stuff and stuff in storage and stuff that was, where we were living at the time, everything we picked up, we kind of would use a filter in our mind to determine, should this go with us to the next place? we would pick up something, we would ask ourselves questions like, okay, do we still use this? Does it even really still work? Will it fit where we're going? Is it a duplicate? Do we have more than one of these and we really can only use one at a time and we don't need multiple? Whatever it is, it was like everything that we touched, that kind of became the process of this filtering so that we could lighten our load and quit spending unnecessary time dealing with and storing and packing and moving and unpacking and then, all of it. And now we're still in our new place getting settled. And in that place, as we open boxes, we're kind of doing the same, like, why did we move this here? What are we doing? Do we really need it? Well, this process of filtering things has caused us to throw a lot of things out, things that were truly just needed to be thrown out. We've given a lot of things away. And it's also made us say multiple times to each other, when we move again, we do not want to have this much stuff to go through again. It's really made us consider all of that, right? Well, this filter that we've used has helped us hone in on what is important, necessary, or useful. Well, the verse that we were talking about last week in Philippians 4:8, it very much does the same thing for us. It helps us really hone in on what's important, necessary, and useful in our thought life. Now think about that. This scripture, let's just read it one more time so that we have it in our head. Philippians 4:8, it says, "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." This filter, if you will truly help us hone in on things that are important, necessary, and useful in our thought life. I mean, I could sit for just a moment and think about things that in the past have tied up my thought life that did not fit the categories that I just listed: important, necessary, or useful. I have sat and wasted way too much time thinking about things that were not important. I thought maybe they were at the time or whatever, but really looking back, I can see how they were not important. They were not necessary. I've sat and just spent time thinking about stuff that wasn't necessary, and certainly stuff that wasn't useful to me. Even things that became, the opposite of that pulled me away because I allowed my thought life to linger on things that were not useful, things that would maybe take me down a road of bitterness with someone. I would sit and hash over in my thinking, just with myself. I would go over and over, replay some conversation someone had with me or something someone said to me that was hurtful, and I'd play it over and over and over. And just when I would think I was maybe getting to a place where the Lord was helping me learn to forgive or let go, I'd just sit there and stew on it and stew on it and stew on it and think about that stuff. And this verse, if we really take those things, if we really did this and lined it up with this passage, it would help us, like I said, with us moving, it would help us hone in on the things that are important, that are necessary, and that are useful. Now, last week we went through the list, and I'm not going to go through, we read it today, but I'm not going to go through the list again in detail because we did that fairly quickly last week. But I want to focus on the last line of this verse. Now, we've read the filter, we've read all of the things that are pure, lovely, holy, all of those. And the very last line of this verse says, after it lists them all, it says, meditate on these things. Meditate on these things. The King James, I believe, says think on these things. So what does this meditate mean? To meditate on these things. What does it mean to think, really truly think on these things? Well, again, when you look at the Greek word in the New Testament for this word meditate, there's a couple different meanings, and I mentioned this last week that sometimes you look at a word and then it splits into two more words, and sometimes those two words split into two words. So there's layers and depths of meaning in the Greek and Hebrew oftentimes. Well, the Greek word here means to take inventory. To take inventory. Meditate on these things. Take inventory of these things. What things? The things that just said in the verse, whatever's lovely, pure, lovely. Oh, I said lovely twice. Maybe we need to do lovely twice. Whatever is true, whatever's noble, whatever's lovely, whatever's praiseworthy, whatever's virtuous. It said, take inventory of these things. Have you ever heard someone maybe say, you really need to take inventory of your life? And what they're really saying is you need to really think about what you have. You need to think about where you're going. You need to think about maybe if you're complaining to them all of the time, maybe they would finally look at you and say, they're thinking of all the blessings that you have in your life, and they would stop and say, you really need to take inventory of your life. You really need to sit and think truly, honestly, take a hard look at what you have. And if you're complaining all the time, it could even be they're saying you need to count your blessings. Take inventory of your life. If we stayed busy truly counting our blessings, we'd have a lot less time to focus our attention on the things that we don't like. So many times in my life, I can think about things that, like I said, I focused on the thing that was irritating me. I gave up altogether thanking God for the thing I already did have. I remember even at various times in the last few years of our life, whether it was looking for a house, looking for a place to live, whether it was, transitioning in ministry. Many of you know that whole process of us transitioning fully out of Dave Reaver's ministry, fully onto our own. Well, all of those years of transition bring you to a place where you can get so consumed with the frustrations of things that you're dealing with, or the unknowns, or all the things that you need, the provision. And those are real things that you really do need before the Lord. But, sometimes you just get so focused on that stuff that you forget to take inventory of all the things in your life that are true, that are noble, that are lovely, that are just, that are of good report, that are virtuous, that are praiseworthy, because we forget to do that. But this word meditate has a secondary meaning, and that's the one I want to also talk about for a moment. It has a secondary meaning in the Greek, and that secondary meaning is this. It means to break the silence, to speak, or to tell. To break the silence, to speak, or to tell. Now, let me tell you what this says to me when I read it, and when I read the definition of this word. This is what it says to me, that not only does this verse, after it lists all of these filters, then it says meditate on these things, and the King James says think on these things. Not only does this verse mean we're supposed to think on these things, yes, we are, but it doesn't just mean that only, I believe, but it means that we need to break our silence, speak about things that fit this filter, and tell other people. So it's not just about our thought life, it's about the things that we speak. So our thought life should line up with the filter that we've gone through. I'm going to say it again because I think we need to get these words in our mind. We need to get it. It's whatever's true, whatever's noble. Let our thought life think of whatever's just, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's of good report, whatever's virtuous, whatever is praiseworthy. Yes. Our thought life needs to be there. But you know what I believe? The deeper meaning of this word meditate, to break the silence, to speak and to tell, I think it also means our words should be filled with and line up to this same filter. The words that we say should also be true and noble and just and pure and lovely and of good report and virtuous and praiseworthy. This isn't just about what you're thinking, it's about what you're saying. Now, I agree the two go hand in hand, because if we think it, we probably end up saying it. I always joke, even when I preach, that if I'm preaching and something comes to mind, if I think it, I'm probably going to say it. And thankfully, the joke would be that thankfully I'm fairly pure-minded. I'm not perfect. I don't mean that by any stretch. I just mean at least I'm not going to get up there and say something horrible, because I don't let my mind dwell in the gutter. But the point is, sometimes you say something, you think it's funny, and then you say it and go, oh, that wasn't funny at all. I should have thought that through a little better, right? But I know that oftentimes what we think is going to end up being what we say. But this verse, when you take apart the meaning of the word meditate, even to think on, the deeper meanings of those words say, not only is it to think, yes, to meditate, to dwell, to stay, to linger there in your mind, yes, 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 but also to speak properly, break the silence, tell people how good God is. If you walk in and you're grumpy and you're complaining, well, how you doing? Well, I just barely got here. Just another one of those days. Or you could walk in and say, you know what? God is good to me. He got me here. I'm excited about the day. Whatever it is that you need to say to change your speech. I'm not even suggesting that you lie. And is your head hurting? Oh, no, it's not hurting when your head's hurting. Yes, we have to be honest. But we can use this same filter on the things that we go around saying and speaking, not only in just the things that we're thinking. So I say it this way, thinking of this list. And again, one more time, what's the list? Let's just go through it, because we need to have it ingrained. Whatever's true, whatever's noble, whatever's just, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's of good report, and whatever is virtuous and praiseworthy. Here's what I say about that list. Meditate on this list, and then think it and speak this list.